In a world where polished shoes shine brighter than compassion, where wealth builds walls instead of bridges, and where people judge before they listen, a single moment can change everything. On a crisp morning, in the heart of a city built on ambition and numbers, the doors of the Grand Crest Bank, massive, golden, intimidating, creaked open. But it wasn't a businessman entering, not an investor, not a millionaire. It was a little girl, a child with dusty cheeks, tangled hair, and clothes worn thin by life's unfairness. Her steps were small yet determined, like a fragile heartbeat fighting to stay alive. Her name was Arya Nolan, and she carried in her hand a single bank card. Just one. Old, faded, almost forgotten. But to her, it was more than plastic. It was a final thread of hope she clung to. As she walked across the polished marble floor, the sound of her tiny footsteps echoed louder than the banker's chatter. People turned. Not with kindness, not with welcome, but with suspicion, irritation, and judgment. A child like her didn't belong here in this kingdom of luxury. Arya didn't look up. She didn't let herself cry. Hunger clawed at her stomach, and exhaustion pressed against her bones, but she held on to one thought. Maybe, just maybe, this card could change something. She did not know, could not know, that behind those cold stares and towering columns, destiny was waiting. Waiting to reveal a secret buried years ago. Waiting to flip her world upside down. And in just a few minutes, this little girl ignored, overlooked, invisible would silence an entire bank, including the billionaire who ruled it. White medium star full 1500 word expanded STOR while the morning sun slid between skyscrapers like molten gold, spilling onto the bustling financial district. Cars glided over smooth asphalt, their metallic bodies reflecting the glow. People moved with purpose, heels clicking, suits swaying, conversations rapid and clipped, as if time itself charged rent. But amid the high-class chaos, a small figure moved hesitantly. Arya Nolan, 10 years old, alone, hungry, and bone-tired. Her face was smudged with city dust, her hair unevenly cut as if by desperate hands, and her eyes, deep brown pools, held the weight of someone who had endured far too much. Her mother had been gone for months. Her father had disappeared long before that. All Arya had left was a torn backpack, a thin jacket, and the card her mother once pressed into her palm. Keep it safe, Arya. One day, when you're older, you'll understand. But hunger doesn't wait for birthdays. So today, Arya had decided to understand. With trembling fingers, she pushed open the towering doors of the Grand Crest Bank. The heavy handles felt cold against her warm skin, and the moment she stepped inside, the air shifted. The bank was enormous, cathedral-like, gleaming with wealth. Marble floors stretched like an ocean. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. Screens flashed stock market numbers like stars in motion. Wealth lived here, breathed here, ruled here. Arya had never felt smaller. People stared immediately. A janitor paused mid-sweep. A woman in pearls frowned. A suited man scoffed, muttering something about street kids. Arya lowered her gaze. She approached the customer service desk like someone approaching a lion's den. Excuse me, she whispered. The banker. Elena rolled kind eyes. Soft voice leaned forward. Yes, sweetheart. I want to check my balance. For this card. She placed the old, faded debit card on the counter. The edges were frayed. The numbers barely readable. Elena blinked in surprise but offered a gentle smile. Of course. Come with me. As they walked across the bank, eyes followed them like shadows. Elena led her not to a regular counter but toward the private wing. Toward a man whose name echoed through financial circles, Maxwell Grant, billionaire investor, strategist, shark of the markets, a man who controlled wealth like a conductor controls music. Maxwell sat in his glass-walled office, surrounded by advisors, sipping black coffee as two screens displayed live market feeds. His laughter thundered across the space. When he saw Elena approaching with a frail little girl, he raised an eyebrow, amused. "Is this new business?" he joked. Elena frowned. "Maxwell, she needs access to the deep archives. Her card is older than our main system." Arya didn't understand any of it. She simply stood quietly, clutching her backpack. Maxwell smirked but inserted the card. He expected a blank account. Maybe a few dollars. Maybe nothing, but as the numbers loaded, his smirk vanished. His eyes widened. He leaned in so close his breath fogged the screen, because the number staring back at him wasn't just large. It was life-changing, shockingly big, the kind of number that silenced rooms. $27, 840, 000.6320-$7 million. Arya's mother had once cared for a dying entrepreneur, Victor Hale, a quiet, generous man without family. Unbeknownst to anyone, he had created a trust fund for Arya. A fund that grew for years, untouched, multiplied by investments only Victor himself had set in motion. The moment Arya needed it most, it had bloomed into a fortune. Maxwell swallowed hard. His advisors stood frozen. Elena gasped. The entire bank seemed to stop breathing. This little girl, this child in faded clothes, was richer than half the CEOs Maxwell worked with. Arya blinked, confused. Is it bad? Elena knelt, tears in her eyes. Sweetheart, you're wealthy. Very wealthy. Arya's lips parted. Her heart thudded. She didn't speak, couldn't speak. She didn't understand money like adults did. All she knew was that her mother had not left her alone in the world after all. Maxwell stood, walked around the desk, and crouched to eye level. Gone was the arrogance. Gone was the smirk. In its place was something rare for him. Respect, Miss Arya Nolan, he said softly. You have nothing to fear anymore. For the next hour, bankers moved like bees around a hive. Documents printed, calls were made, appointments scheduled. Maxwell personally assigned his top advisors to protect Arya's inheritance. Elena stayed by her side, making sure she understood every step. They fed her, gave her clean water, wrapped her in a warm blanket, and for the first time in years, Arya felt safe. When she finally stepped outside, sunlight washed over her like a blessing. The cold wind felt gentler. The city looked less intimidating. For the first time, she smiled small, genuine, hopeful. Her life was no longer defined by hunger, fear, or loneliness. It was defined by possibility. Somewhere above the clouds, her mother was smiling too. If this story moved your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Because sometimes the smallest stories create the loudest echoes.